name is Vincent. I'm 63 years old, and what I discovered in my own home shattered everything I believed about the people I love. For 37 years, I built a life. I raised a son. I worked until my hands were calloused and my back bent. I gave everything I had to create something stable, something good, something that would last beyond me. And I truly thought, that family meant something. That blood meant loyalty. That the people you sacrificed for would remember what you gave. I was wrong. What happened to me wasn't just betrayal. It was systematic humiliation. It was cruelty wrapped in smiles. It was the slow, agonizing realization that the woman my son married, the woman I welcomed into my home, into my heart, into my life, saw me as nothing more than a joke, an obstacle, a relic to be tolerated and mocked. But what I saw that night, what I heard, what I witnessed with my own trembling hands clutching the doorframe for support, I'll never forget it. Not until the day I die. It's burned into my memory like a brand, hot and permanent and painful. Before I continue, please like this video, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. It helps me know someone out there still believes in stories like this. Because right now, sitting here in the silence of what used to be my home, I need to know that someone understands, that someone sees me, that someone believes that what happened to me matters. Let me take you back. Back before everything fell apart. Back when I still believed in the goodness of people. My son's name is Theodore. We call him Theo. He's my only child, born to me and my late wife Catherine when I was 26 years old. Catherine passed away 7 years ago from cancer, and when she died, a part of me died with her. But Theo was my reason to keep going. He was successful, ambitious, working his way up in the finance sector. He had Catherine's eyes and my stubborn determination. When he told me he was getting married, I wept. Not sad tears, happy ones, grateful ones. Because after Catherine died, I was so afraid he'd be alone, that he wouldn't find someone to share his life with, that he'd end up like me, rattling around in a too-big house filled with memories and silence. Her name was Clarissa. She was beautiful. I'll give her that. Tall, elegant, with dark hair that fell in perfect waves and a smile that could light up a room when she wanted it to. She worked in marketing, had a master's degree, spoke 3 languages. On paper, she was everything a father could want for his son. And at first she was wonderful. She'd come to Sunday dinners and compliment my cooking. She'd ask about my woodworking projects in the garage. She'd sit with me on the porch and ask about Catherine, listening with what seemed like genuine interest as I told stories about our life together. She called me Dad after the wedding, and the first time she said it, I actually choked up. I thought I'd been given a second chance, a daughter to fill some of that emptiness Catherine left behind. We'd have family game nights. I'd watch Theo and Clarissa laugh together over Scrabble, and my heart would swell with contentment. This was what I'd worked for. This was the reward for all those years of sacrifice and struggle. A family, togetherness, love. I helped them with the down payment on their first house, a beautiful colonial with a big backyard, $30,000 from my retirement savings. I didn't hesitate. I didn't ask for it back. It was a gift, given with joy. When they had their first baby, my grandson, little Oliver, I was in the delivery room, holding Theo's hand while he held Clarissa's. Oliver was perfect. 7 pounds, 4 ounces of pure potential and hope. I looked at that tiny face and saw the future. I saw legacy. I saw meaning. For 3 years, life was good, better than good. It was everything I'd hoped for after Catherine died. I'd babysit Oliver twice a week. I'd arrive at their house with homemade cookies or a new toy, and Oliver would run to me with his arms out, shouting, "Grandpa, Grandpa," in that sweet, high-pitched voice that made everything else disappear. Clarissa would thank me profusely. She'd hug me. She'd tell me I was the best father-in-law anyone could ask for. I believed her. God help me. I believed every word. But soon I started noticing small things that didn't make sense. It began with comments, little remarks that felt like paper cuts, small enough to dismiss, but they stung nonetheless. Oh, Vincent, you don't need to bring food every time you visit. We're perfectly capable of feeding ourselves, you know. I wish you'd call before coming over. We have such busy schedules. Oliver doesn't need so many sweets, Dad. We're trying to raise him with healthy habits. Each comment taken alone was reasonable, understandable even. But they started piling up week after week, month after month, and the tone began to shift. What had been warm became cool. What had been welcoming became tolerant. Theo started seeming distant, tired. When I'd ask him about work, he'd give one-word answers. When I'd suggest we go fishing like we used to, he'd say he was too busy. And Clarissa stopped calling me Dad. It happened so gradually I almost didn't notice. First it became Vincent, then it became nothing at all. She'd just start talking without addressing me directly. The Sunday dinners became monthly, then every other month. Always at their house now, never mine. It's just easier with Oliver, Clarissa would say. You understand. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was projecting my loneliness onto innocent situations, that they were just busy, just stressed, just adjusting to parenthood. But deep down, in that place where we keep the truths we don't want to face, I knew something had changed, and I didn't know why. Until one night I saw something that made my heart stop. It was Oliver's fourth birthday party. They'd invited me, of course. I was his grandfather. How could they not? But the invitation had come via text message, casual and brief, only a week before the party. No phone call, no personal touch. I arrived early because that's what I do. I'm punctual, responsible. I brought a gift I'd spent weeks working on, a wooden toy chest I'd built in my garage, carved with Oliver's name and painted with scenes from his favorite storybook. It had taken me 40 hours at least. Every detail perfect. Every corner sanded smooth so he wouldn't get splinters. When I walked into their house carrying that chest, Clarissa was in the kitchen with three of her friends. They were laughing, drinking mimosas, arranging cupcakes on a tiered stand. Oh, she said when she saw me. Just, oh. Not hello or thanks for coming or let me help you with that. I set the chest down in the living room. Oliver ran over, excited, and I knelt down to show him how the lid opened, how there was a special compartment for his favorite toys. Wow, Grandpa, this is amazing. Oliver's face was pure joy. I heard Clarissa's voice from the kitchen, not quite a whisper, but not full volume either. She didn't know I could hear her. God, he's here already. The party doesn't start for another hour. One of her friends laughed. Is that the famous Vincent? The one who's always around? Don't even get me started, Clarissa said. Her tone was sharp, dripping with irritation. The man has no boundaries. He shows up unannounced. He babies Oliver constantly, and he acts like we owe him something because he gave us money for the house years ago. My hands froze on the toy chest. Oliver was still examining the carved details, oblivious. But I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. That's tough, another voice said. But I mean, he's Theo's dad. You kind of have to deal with it. Barely, Clarissa scoffed. Theo's so wrapped up in work he hardly notices how suffocating his father is. Honestly, sometimes I wish Vincent would just, I don't know, find a hobby, join a senior center, anything to get him out of our lives more. The other women laughed, not uncomfortable, polite laughter. Real, genuine amusement. I stood up slowly, my knees cracking. Oliver was pulling at my sleeve, asking me to play, but I couldn't hear him properly. There was a ringing in my ears, a tightness in my chest. She wished I would get out of their lives. The man who helped them buy their house, who babysat their child twice a week without complaint, who built furniture with his own arthritic hands, who loved them with every fiber of his being. Suffocating. That's what she called me. I stayed for the party. What else could I do? Leave? Make a scene in front of Oliver on his birthday? I'm not that kind of person. So I smiled. I sang happy birthday. I ate cake that tasted like ash in my mouth. And I watched Clarissa, really watched her, the way she interacted with her friends, bright, animated, full of life, the way she interacted with the other parents, charming, engaged, interested, the way she interacted with me, cold, dismissive, with this subtle curl of her lip whenever I spoke, like my words were an inconvenience. Theo was somewhere. I hardly saw him during the party. He was in and out, taking work calls, stressed about some deal that was closing on Monday. When I left, I hugged Oliver goodbye. Clarissa walked me to the door, and for a moment I thought about confronting her, about asking her directly why she'd said those things. But I didn't, because I was afraid of what it would mean, afraid of losing access to my grandson, afraid of the truth. "Thanks for the chest, Vincent," she said, her voice pleasant but empty. "I'm sure Oliver will love it." Then she closed the door and I stood on the porch alone, holding my car keys, feeling more isolated than I'd felt since Catherine died. Over the next few weeks, things got worse. My scheduled days with Oliver were canceled. "He's got play dates," Clarissa would text. "Maybe next week." Next week would come, and there'd be another excuse. He was sick. They were busy. They were visiting Clarissa's parents. I stopped being invited to things. I'd find out through Oliver, innocently because children don't know how to lie yet, that they'd gone to the zoo, had a barbecue, visited the beach, all without me. When I'd call Theo, he'd sound exhausted. "Dad, I can't talk right now. Work is insane." "When can we talk?" "I don't know. Soon. I'll call you back." He never did. I felt myself becoming invisible, like I was fading out of their lives, one canceled visit at a time. And the worst part? I still didn't understand why. What had I done? How had I become the villain in this story? I lost sleep. I lost weight. I'd sit in my workshop surrounded by half-finished projects and stare at nothing. Catherine's picture was on the workbench, and I'd talk to her sometimes. "What would you do?" I'd ask her photo. "How would you fix this?" But she was gone, and I was alone. He stopped smiling at me when I did see him. Theo, I mean. My son. The boy I raised. The man I was so proud of. When I'd crack a joke, he'd give me this tight, forced smile. When I'd try to have a real conversation, he'd check his phone. She stopped looking me in the eyes. Clarissa? She'd glance at me, through me, past me, like I was furniture, and I didn't know why. Until one night I saw something that made my heart stop. It was a Thursday evening. I'd driven to their house unannounced. Something Clarissa had made clear annoyed her. But I couldn't help myself. I needed to see Oliver. I needed to feel like I still mattered. I told myself I was just being a concerned grandfather, that dropping by wasn't a crime, that family should be able to visit family without formal appointments and written invitations. But deep down, I knew I was checking on them, trying to understand what was happening. I parked on the street and walked up to the front door. Through the window, I could see them in the living room. Theo, Clarissa, and Oliver. They looked happy, normal, like a family. I knocked. The change in Clarissa's expression when she saw me was instantaneous. Her smile dropped. Her shoulders tensed. She opened the door, but didn't step aside to let me in. "Vincent, we weren't expecting you." "I know, I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by. Say hello to Oliver. It's bedtime soon. This isn't a good time." Behind her, I could see Theo on the couch, his face in his hands. He looked stressed, miserable even. "Is everything okay?" I asked. Theo looks upset. "Everything's fine," she said quickly, too quickly. "He's just tired from work. You should probably go." "Can I just say goodnight to Oliver? 5 minutes?" She sighed, this dramatic put-upon sigh, and finally stepped aside. Oliver was thrilled to see me. He showed me a drawing he'd made at preschool, a picture of our family, him, Theo, Clarissa, and me. I was in the picture, still, At least in Oliver's world, I still existed. That's beautiful, buddy, I said, my voice cracking a little. Stay for dinner. Grandpa, Oliver said. He can't, Clarissa interjected immediately. Grandpa has to go home. But why? Because I said so, Oliver. Say goodbye. I hugged my grandson, feeling this desperate, aching need to hold on just a little longer. But Clarissa was already at the door, holding it open, her message clear. As I passed Theo, I put a hand on his shoulder. Son, if something's wrong, you can talk to me. He looked up, and for a moment, I saw something in his eyes. Pain, guilt, fear. But then Clarissa's voice cut through. Vincent, really, we have things to do. I left, and as I walked to my car, I heard raised voices inside the house. Theo and Clarissa arguing. I sat in my car, hands shaking on the steering wheel, and tried to convince myself I was imagining things. Maybe I was being too sensitive. Maybe I was reading too much into normal family stress. Maybe Clarissa was just having a hard time, and I was making it worse by being, what had she called me? Suffocating. I drove home and sat in my dark living room, Catherine's wedding photo on the mantle, and tried to logic my way out of the pain. You're being paranoid, I told myself. They're busy, they're young, they have their own lives. But then I'd remember the way Clarissa looked at me, the contempt in her eyes, and I'd remember her words at the birthday party. I wish he'd just get out of our lives. I called my brother Leonard the next day. He lives 3 states away, but we talk every few weeks. Lenny, I said, can I ask you something? Of course, what's going on? I told him everything. The comments, the canceled visits, the feeling of being pushed out. You're imagining things, he said immediately. Kids these days are just busy, Vince. They've got work. They've got kids of their own. They're not trying to hurt you. But the things she said, you probably misheard. You know how loud parties are. And even if she did say something, people vent. It doesn't mean anything. It felt like it meant something. Vincent. His voice was gentle but firm. You need to let them breathe. You're probably hovering too much. Give them space, and they'll come around. So that's what I did. I gave them space. I didn't call for 2 weeks, didn't text, didn't visit. I waited for them to reach out. They didn't. Not once. Not a single phone call. Not a single message. Nothing. It was like I'd ceased to exist. On the 15th day, I broke. I called Theo. Dad? He sounded surprised. Is everything okay? I wanted to hear your voice. I haven't talked to you in weeks. I know, I'm sorry. Work has been absolutely brutal. We're in the middle of this merger and... Can we have dinner? Just you and me? Silence. Theo? I don't think that's a good idea right now, Dad. Why not? More silence. Theo, please talk to me. What did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. It's just complicated. Then uncomplicated. I'm your father. I know, and I love you. But I need you to just trust me. Give us some time. He hung up, and I sat there, phone in hand, feeling like my world was collapsing in slow motion. What could be so complicated that my own son couldn't have dinner with me? I spent sleepless nights trying to figure it out, replaying every interaction, every conversation, every moment. Had I said something offensive? Had I been too pushy, too critical? I couldn't think of anything, and that made it worse. Because if I didn't know what I'd done, how could I fix it? The guilt ate at me. Maybe Leonard was right. Maybe I was suffocating. Maybe I needed to back off completely, let them live their lives without the burden of an aging father who needed validation. But the next morning, the evidence was right in front of me, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. I was scrolling through social media, something I rarely do, but isolation makes you desperate for connection. When I saw Clarissa's post, it was a family photo. Theo, Clarissa, and Oliver at some upscale restaurant celebrating. The caption read, "So grateful for my real family." the people who love and support us unconditionally. Blessed your family first. Her parents were tagged in the photo, so were her siblings. I wasn't in the picture, I wasn't tagged, I wasn't mentioned, but the word real stabbed me like a knife. Real family. Implying what? That I wasn't real? That I wasn't family? I scrolled through more of her posts. There were dozens I'd never seen, photos of vacations I didn't know they'd taken, celebrations I hadn't been invited to, a whole life happening that I was completely excluded from. And in every single post about family, I was absent. It was like I'd been erased. That's when I decided I needed to know the truth. I needed to understand what was really happening because clearly no one was going to tell me. I'm not proud of what I did next. It goes against everything I believe about trust and privacy. But I was desperate, drowning, grasping for anything solid to hold on to. I decided to find out what they really thought of me, what they said when I wasn't around. The next Sunday, I called Theo and asked if I could take Oliver for the afternoon. To my surprise, Clarissa agreed. Maybe she needed a break. Maybe she felt guilty. I didn't care why. I just wanted to see my grandson. When I picked Oliver up, I chatted with Theo briefly at the door. Casual, friendly, like nothing was wrong. Your mother's birthday is coming up, I said. We should do something to honor her memory. Maybe visit her grave together? Theo's face softened. Yeah, Dad, that would be nice. We'll plan something. It was the warmest he'd been to me in months. Maybe things were getting better. Maybe I really had been paranoid. I took Oliver to the park, pushed him on the swings, bought him ice cream. He was happy, so was I. For a few hours, everything felt normal again. When I brought him back, Clarissa was home alone. Theo had been called into the office. Thanks for watching him, she said, taking Oliver inside. I lingered at the door. Clarissa, can we talk? About what? About us. About whatever I did to upset you. I want to make things right. She looked at me, and for a moment, I thought I saw something like pity in her eyes. Vincent, you didn't do anything. We're just busy. That's all. It feels like more than that. Well, it's not. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get Oliver ready for bed. The door closed. Again. I walked to my car, but instead of getting in, I stood there, keys in hand, staring at their house. That's when I noticed the living room window was open. Just a crack. And voices were drifting out. I shouldn't have listened. I know that. But I did. I crept closer to the side of the house, staying in the shadows, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. Clarissa was on the phone. I know, Mom, but what am I supposed to do? He won't take a hint. Pause. No, Theo won't say anything. He's too guilty. He feels sorry for the old man. My blood ran cold. The old man? That's what she called me. I've tried being distant. I've canceled plans. I've made it clear he's not welcome. But he keeps showing up. It's pathetic, honestly. Pause, laughter. Cold, sharp laughter. I wish we'd never taken his money for the house. Now he acts like he owns us. Like we owe him our lives. I couldn't breathe. I literally couldn't get air into my lungs. Listen, I have a plan. Theo's up for a promotion, and once he gets it, we're moving. Somewhere far away. Maybe Colorado. And we're not telling Vincent until we're already gone. No, 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 no. I'm serious. A fresh start. No more obligation. No more guilt. Just our little family. The way it should be. I backed away from the window, stumbling, nearly falling. I made it to my car and sat inside, shaking violently. They were planning to move, to take Oliver away, to disappear from my life completely. And Theo knew. He was part of it. I drove home in a daze. I don't even remember the route. I just remember sitting in my garage, staring at nothing, as the sky outside turned from purple to black. That night I couldn't sleep. I paced my house like a ghost haunting his own life. Every creak of the floorboards reminded me I was alone. Every silent room reminded me that Catherine was gone, and now soon, Theo and Oliver would be too. But I couldn't confront them, not yet, because I needed more. I needed to understand the full extent of what was happening. So I made a decision. I bought a small digital recorder, the kind journalists use, tiny, discreet. The next time I visited, which Clarissa reluctantly allowed 2 weeks later, I hid it under the couch cushion in their living room. My hands shook as I did it. This wasn't me. I'm not a sneaky person. I'm not someone who spies on family. But I also wasn't someone who deserved to be erased, to be called pathetic, to be plotted against. I stayed for exactly 30 minutes, played with Oliver, made awkward small talk with Clarissa, left. And that night I went back. It was past midnight. Their house was dark. I parked down the street, crept through their backyard, and used the spare key I still had, the one I'd been given years ago for emergencies, to slip inside. My heart was hammering so loud I was sure it would wake them, but the house stayed silent. I retrieved the recorder from under the couch, pocketed it, and left. Back home, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee I wouldn't drink and pressed play. At first, it was just ambient noise, TV sounds, Oliver playing, then Clarissa's voice. Can't believe he just shows up like that. No call, no text, just appears. Theo's voice, tired. He's lonely, Clarissa. What do you want me to do? I want you to set boundaries. Tell him he can't just waltz into our house whenever he feels like it. It's disrespectful. He's my father, and I'm your wife. Who comes first? Silence. That's what I thought, Clarissa said. Look, I know you feel guilty about the whole moving thing, but it's for the best. We need space. We need our own life. He'll be devastated. He'll survive. People get over things. And honestly, Theo, he's too dependent on us. It's not healthy. He needs to make his own life instead of living through ours. Maybe you're right. Those 3 words broke something inside me. Maybe you're right. My son, my own son, agreeing that I was too dependent, that I needed to be, what, discarded? I listened to the entire recording, 2 hours of mundane conversation punctuated by casual cruelty, references to getting rid of Vincent, jokes about my age, my loneliness, my pathetic attempts to stay relevant in their lives. Theo didn't defend me, not once. He just agreed, or stayed silent. When the recording ended, I sat in the gray light of dawn, feeling hollowed out, like someone had reached inside me and scooped out everything that made me human, leaving only the shell. I had my answer. I knew the truth. They didn't want me. They were tolerating me until they could escape. I was an obligation, a burden, something to be managed and eventually discarded. That night I pressed record on my own phone and waited for the next gathering, the next opportunity to hear what they really thought. Because if I was going to lose everything, I at least deserved to understand why. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. Clarissa was hosting a dinner party. She'd invited her business associates, people from her marketing firm, potential clients, networking contacts. It was important to her. A chance to show off her beautiful home, her perfect family, her carefully curated life. I wasn't invited, of course, but Theo called me the day before. Dad, Clarissa's having this work thing tomorrow night. Could you maybe not stop by? She's really stressed about it, and I understand, I said. I won't come. Thanks. I appreciate it. He sounded relieved. But here's the thing. I'd already made plans. I wasn't going to knock on the door and embarrass them. I wasn't going to crash the party, but I was going to be there. Their backyard backs up to a small wooded area. There's a window that looks into the dining room and living room. I'd been in their home enough times to know the layout perfectly. So that evening, as the sun set and guests began arriving, I positioned myself in those woods. I had my phone. I had a small pair of binoculars, and I had a rage in my chest that felt like burning coal. I watched them through the window, Clarissa looked stunning in a navy dress, her hair and makeup flawless. She moved through the room like a queen, confident and commanding. Theo stood beside her, playing the supportive husband, shaking hands, laughing at jokes. Oliver was already in bed. I could see the baby monitor on the kitchen counter. The party went on. Wine flowed. Catered food was served on expensive plates. Conversation buzzed. I felt invisible, a ghost watching the living. Around 9 p.m., most of the guests had arrived. Clarissa clinked her glass to get everyone's attention. "Thank you all so much for coming," she said, her voice carrying through the open window. "It means the world to me to have such talented, driven people in my home." Applause, smiles. "I wanted to take a moment to talk about family," she continued, "because that's what this company is to me. A family. The people who support me, who believe in me, who've helped me build something meaningful." More applause. Then someone, a man I didn't recognize, raised his glass. "To Clarissa, and to absent family members who, how did you put it earlier? Know when to give you space?" Laughter rippled through the room. Clarissa smiled. "Yes. Well, some people understand boundaries and others, well, let's just say we're working on it." More laughter, knowing laughter. My chest tightened. A woman spoke up. "Oh, you're talking about Theo's father, right? The one who's always around?" I froze. Clarissa glanced at Theo, who looked uncomfortable, staring at his wine glass. "I probably shouldn't say anything," Clarissa said, but her tone suggested she absolutely was going to say something. "But yes, my father-in-law is, how do I put this delicately, very invested in our lives." "That's sweet, though, isn't it?" another guest offered. "Sweet?" Clarissa laughed, and it was a cruel sound. "Try suffocating. The man has no life of his own, so he's latched onto ours. It's honestly exhausting." My vision blurred. I gripped the tree trunk beside me to stay upright. "He shows up unannounced," Clarissa continued, warming to her topic now, emboldened by wine and audience. "He calls constantly. He acts like we owe him something, because he helped with our house down payment years ago. It's like, we get it. You're lonely, but that's not our problem to solve." "Clarissa," Theo said quietly, "maybe we shouldn't—" "Oh, come on, honey. Everyone here is friends. It's fine." She turned back to her audience. "And the worst part, he guilt trips Theo constantly. 'I'm your father, I miss you. Why don't you visit more?' It's manipulation, plain and simple." Someone gasped, but it was the kind of gasp that encouraged more gossip, not less. "And his gifts!" Clarissa threw her hands up. "He makes these elaborate wooden things in his garage, toys, furniture, whatever, and expects us to be grateful, as if we asked for any of it, as if we don't have our own money to buy what we need." I thought of the toy chest, the one I'd spent 40 hours carving for Oliver. "Last month," Clarissa said, "he built Oliver this massive dollhouse, completely unrequested, and then got offended when I said we didn't have room for it. Like, sir, this is our house. We decide what goes in it." The group was eating this up. I could see it in their faces. The schadenfreude, the relief that their family drama wasn't being aired. "So what are you going to do?" someone asked. Clarissa leaned in conspiratorially. "Between us, we're moving. Soon, Theo got offered a position in Colorado, and we're taking it. And we're not telling Vincent until the moving truck is literally packed." Gasps. Real ones this time. "That's harsh," someone said. "Is it?" Clarissa shrugged. "Or is it self-preservation? Look, I'm not a monster. I understand he's lonely, especially after his wife died. But that's not my burden to carry. I have my own life, my own career, my own family to think about. What does Theo think?" All eyes turned to my son. He shifted uncomfortably. "It's complicated." "It's not complicated," Clarissa said firmly. "Your father is overbearing, and we need space. That's it. But he's my dad, and I'm your wife. Choose." The room went silent. I waited for Theo to defend me, to stand up and say that I wasn't a burden, that I'd sacrificed everything for him, that I deserved better than this. But he didn't. He just looked down at his wine and said, "You're right. We need to do what's best for our family." I froze. My whole world collapsed in a single frame. My son, my only child. The boy I'd raised alone after Catherine died. The boy I'd worked 3 jobs to put through college. The boy I'd loved with every cell in my body had just chosen his wife's cruelty over his own father. I don't remember backing away from the window. I don't remember walking through the woods to my car. I don't remember the drive home. I just remember sitting in my living room, in the dark, staring at Catherine's picture and thinking, this is how it ends. This is how a life of sacrifice and love ends. With mockery, with betrayal, with casual cruelty delivered over expensive wine. I cried. For the first time since Catherine's funeral, I cried. Deep, wrenching sobs that felt like they were tearing me apart from the inside. I'd lost everything. But what happened next was even worse. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Clarissa's laughter. I saw Theo's face, passive and complicit. I felt the weight of my own invisibility crushing my chest. By morning, I'd made a decision. I wasn't going to let them erase me quietly. I wasn't going to disappear into whatever assisted living facility or lonely senior community they imagined for me. I wasn't going to let Clarissa's version of me, pathetic, burdensome, manipulative, become the truth. If they wanted me gone, they were going to have to face me first. I called Theo at 9 a.m. He answered on the 4th ring, sounding groggy. "Dad, is everything okay?" "We need to talk. Today, in person." "I have work." "I don't care. This is more important. I'll be at your house at noon." "Dad, that's not a good—" "Noon, Theodore. Be there." I hung up before he could argue. I spent the morning preparing. I replayed the audio from the recorder. I took screenshots of Clarissa's social media posts, the ones that excluded me, the ones that called her parents real family. I printed them out. I made a folder. Evidence. Not for a court, but for my own validation. Proof that I wasn't crazy, that this was really happening. At 11:45, I drove to their house. My hands were steady on the wheel. My mind was clear. I wasn't scared anymore. I was angry. And anger, I discovered, is a much more useful emotion than grief. I parked in their driveway, right in front, blocking them in, and walked to the door. Theo opened it before I could knock. He looked terrible, exhausted, stressed. "Dad, this isn't a good time." "It never is it?" "Let me in." "Clarissa's working from home today and she has calls." "Good, she should hear this too." I pushed past him, something I'd never done before. Theo looked shocked. Clarissa was at the dining room table, laptop open, phone in hand. She looked up and her expression shifted immediately to irritation. "Vincent, what are you doing here?" "We're going to talk," I said. "The 3 of us, right now." "I have a meeting in 10 minutes. Cancel it." She blinked. "Excuse me?" "I said cancel it. What I have to say is more important than your meeting." Theo stepped between us, hands raised. "Dad, you need to calm down." "Calm down?" I laughed, and it was a bitter sound. "Calm down. I've been calm for months, Theo, while you two plotted behind my back, while you mocked me to your friends, while you planned to abandon me without even the courtesy of a conversation." Clarissa's face went pale. "That's right," I said. I know everything." "What are you talking about?" Theo asked, but his voice was weak, guilty. I pulled out my phone and played the recording. Clarissa's voice filled the room. "Can't believe he just shows up like that. No call, no text. Just appears." Then Theo. "He's my father." Then Clarissa. "And I'm your wife. Who comes first?" I watched their faces as they listened. Clarissa's expression shifted from pale to flushed, from shock to anger. Theo just looked sick. I stopped the recording. I've heard enough to know exactly what you think of me, I said. So let me make this easy for you. I'll disappear. I'll get out of your lives. You won't have to sneak away to Colorado or avoid my calls or make excuses. I'll just go. Dad, Theo started. But before I do, I want you to know something. I want you to understand what you're throwing away. I pulled out the folder and set it on the table. Inside were photos. Me and Theo fishing when he was 8. Me at his high school graduation, beaming with pride. Me and Catherine on our wedding day. Me holding baby Theo in the hospital. This is what you're erasing, I said. These memories, this history, this love. Because you're too selfish and too weak to set boundaries in a healthy way. That's not fair, Clarissa said, finding her voice. You're guilt tripping. Guilt tripping? I turned on her, and something in my expression made her step back. You want to talk about manipulation? Let's talk about how you've systematically isolated me from my own family, how you've turned my son against me, how you've made me feel like a criminal for loving my grandson. You're overbearing, she shouted. You don't respect our privacy or our autonomy. I helped you buy this house, I shouted back, louder than I'd ever raised my voice. I gave you $30,000, money I saved for years, without asking for anything in return. I babysat your child twice a week. I built furniture with arthritic hands. And you call me overbearing? You act like we owe you. I don't want you to owe me anything. I want you to love me. I want to be included. I want to be treated like family, not like some obligation you're trying to escape. The room fell silent except for my heavy breathing. Theo looked at the floor. Clarissa crossed her arms. And I realized, standing there, that nothing I said would change anything. They'd already made up their minds. I was the problem. I was the villain. And no amount of evidence or emotion was going to rewrite that narrative. Fine, I said quietly. You win. I'll leave you alone. Dad, don't. Theo reached for me. I jerked away. Don't. Don't pretend you care now. You've made your choice. You made it last night when you told your wife she was right. You made it every time you canceled plans with me. You made it every time you stayed silent while she mocked me. I do care, he said, and there were tears in his eyes now. I love you. Then why does it feel like you hate me? He had no answer. I picked up my folder and walked to the door. My hand was on the knob when I turned back. When you move to Colorado, I said, send me your address so I know where to send Oliver's birthday presents. Because even if you don't want me in your lives, I'm still his grandfather, and I still love him. Even if you've made it impossible to show him. I left, and as I walked to my car, I heard Clarissa's voice. That was your father's guilt trip, Theo. Don't fall for it. I got in my car. I drove away, and I didn't look back. I thought it was over, that this was the end of our relationship, that I'd said what I needed to say, and now I could begin the process of grieving the loss of my family. But I was wrong, because the next morning I woke up to 17 missed calls from Theo. And when I finally called him back, he was sobbing. Dad, he choked down. Something happened. Clarissa's company, it's gone. Everything's gone. I drove to their house immediately, despite everything that had happened the day before, because Theo was my son. And no matter how much he'd hurt me, I couldn't ignore his pain. When I arrived, the scene was chaos. Clarissa was on the phone, pacing the living room, her voice shrill and panicked. Don't understand. How is this possible? We had clients. We had contracts. Theo was sitting on the couch, head in his hands. I walked in. The door was unlocked and stood in the doorway. Theo looked up. His eyes were red and swollen. Dad, he whispered. Tell me what happened, I said. Over the next hour, through tears and fragmented explanations, the story came out. Clarissa's marketing company, the one she'd built over 8 years, the one she was so proud of, had collapsed overnight. Their biggest client, a tech startup that represented 60% of their revenue, had pulled their contract without warning. They'd found out about some regulatory violation, something to do with data privacy and marketing practices that Clarissa's firm had been engaging in. The violation triggered an investigation. Other clients got spooked and pulled out too. Vendors demanded payment for outstanding invoices. Employees quit. Within 24 hours, the company went from thriving to bankrupt. "I don't understand," Clarissa kept saying, her voice breaking. "We were so careful. We followed all the rules." But according to Theo, they hadn't. Clarissa had been cutting corners, using aggressive marketing tactics that skirted legal boundaries. It was only a matter of time before something caught up with them. The tech startup's legal team had done a deep dive and found everything. And once they pulled out, it all fell apart like a house of cards. "We're ruined," Clarissa said, finally sitting down, her face in her hands. "Financially ruined. We have debts, we have legal fees, we have—" She looked up at Theo. "What are we going to do?" And Theo, my son, looked at me. I should have felt vindicated. I should have felt a surge of satisfaction. Karma, justice, whatever you want to call it. The woman who'd mocked me, who'd called me pathetic and burdensome, was now sitting in her expensive house facing financial ruin. But I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt tired, sad, and strangely concerned, because this affected Oliver, my grandson, the innocent child who'd done nothing wrong. "How bad is it?" I asked. Theo's voice was hollow. "We might lose the house. The legal fees alone are going to be massive. Clarissa's personal finances were tied up in the company. We're looking at, I don't know, bankruptcy, starting over." Clarissa was crying now. Real, broken crying. Not the polished, controlled version of herself I'd seen at the party. I stood there. This old man who'd been called pathetic and told he was too dependent. And I had a choice to make. I could walk away. Let them suffer the consequences of their cruelty. Let them understand what it felt like to lose everything. Or I could be better than they were. "I'll help," I heard myself say. 3 heads snapped toward me. Theo's, Clarissa's, and even Oliver's, who'd wandered into the room clutching a stuffed animal. "What?" Clarissa whispered. "I said I'll help. Financially. I have savings. I have Catherine's life insurance money that I never touched. It was supposed to be for emergencies." "Dad, you can't," Theo started. "I can, and I will. Not for you." I looked at Clarissa. "For Oliver. Because he deserves stability. He deserves a home. And despite everything, he deserves to have his parents not destroyed by debt." Clarissa stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "But," I continued, my voice firm, "there are conditions." "Of course there are," Clarissa said bitterly. "You're going to apologize. Really apologize. Not a fake performative apology, but a real one. You're going to acknowledge what you did to me, how you treated me, and you're going to commit to changing." Silence. "And we're going to family therapy, the 3 of us, because this family's broken, and if we're going to move forward, we need help." "I don't need therapy," Clarissa said. "Then you don't need my money." More silence. Finally, Theo spoke. "Clarissa, please." She looked at him, then at me, then at Oliver. "Fine," she whispered. "Fine. I'll do it." Over the next few weeks, I paid for their legal defense. I paid outstanding debts. I kept them afloat while they figured out next steps. It wasn't easy. I had to liquidate investments. I had to pull from retirement accounts. The money Catherine and I had saved for our old age together, money I'd been hoarding like a dragon because it was all I had left of our life together, went to save the family that had tried to erase me. But slowly, things stabilized. The legal investigation concluded with fines but no criminal charges. Clarissa had to shut down her company, but she avoided prison. They didn't lose the house, barely, but they kept it. And we started therapy. Those first sessions were brutal. Dr. Patterson, our therapist, made us confront everything. Clarissa had to admit her cruelty. Theo had to admit his cowardice. I had to admit my struggles with loneliness and my fear of being forgotten. It was painful, raw. There were sessions where people stormed out, sessions where everyone cried, but slowly, painfully slowly, we started to heal. Clarissa apologized. A real apology. She cried as she told me she'd been threatened by my presence, felt like I was judging her parenting, feared that Theo loved me more than her. None of it excused her behavior, but it helped me understand it. Theo apologized for his silence, for choosing comfort over courage, for not standing up for me when I needed him most. And I apologized too, for hovering, even if I didn't mean to, for not recognizing that boundaries can be healthy, for letting my loneliness become their burden. We were broken, but we were trying to fix it. 6 months passed, then a year. Clarissa got a new job, not as glamorous, but steady. They paid me back, little by little. I didn't ask them to, but they insisted. Our relationship changed. We had dinner once a month. I called before visiting. They included me in plans, genuinely. Wasn't perfect. There were still awkward moments, still pain beneath the surface. But it was real. It was honest. It was family. And just when I thought life was returning to normal, something unexpected happened. I was in my garage workshop on a Tuesday afternoon, working on a small wooden train for Oliver's 6th birthday, when my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello, is this Vincent Holloway? Yes, who's this? My name is Patricia Chen. I'm a social worker with Elder Services. Your name was given to us well, by several families in your community. My heart sank. Is this about me? Is someone saying I need help? No, Mr. Holloway, quite the opposite. We're calling because we've heard about your situation, what you went through with your family, and how you handled it. And we're wondering if you'd be interested in sharing your story with other seniors who are experiencing similar isolation and family conflicts. I was stunned. I don't understand. We run support groups, Patricia explained, for older adults dealing with family estrangement, difficult relationships with adult children, loneliness after losing a spouse. Your story, the fact that you fought for your relationship, that you set boundaries while still offering grace, it's exactly what these people need to hear. How do you know about my story? Your therapist, Dr. Patterson, mentioned it with your permission during a professional conference. She asked if we'd be interested in having you speak. I looked at Catherine's picture on my workbench. I'll do it, I said. That's how I started speaking at community centers, senior groups, church gatherings. I told my story, the whole story, including my mistakes, to rooms full of people who understood exactly what I'd been through. And I learned something profound. I wasn't alone. There were dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands of people my age dealing with the same pain. Adult children who'd grown distant, families that had fractured, people who felt invisible, burdensome, forgotten. But there was hope too. I learned that boundaries aren't abandonment. They're necessary for healthy relationships. That feeling lonely doesn't give us the right to demand constant attention, that our adult children have their own lives, their own struggles, their own needs. But I also learned that we deserve dignity, that family should be built on mutual respect, that it's okay to fight for your place at the table as long as you're fighting fair. I learned that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, that you can love someone and still hold them accountable. That reconciliation takes work from everyone involved, not just the person who was hurt. My relationship with Theo and Clarissa will never be what it was before. That naive, uncomplicated love I felt in the beginning. Too much has happened. Too much pain has been inflicted and absorbed. But what we have now is stronger, more honest, built on truth instead of illusion. Clarissa and I will never be close, but we're cordial. We're cooperative. We're united in our love for Oliver and Theo. Theo and I talk every week now. Real conversations about his fears, his struggles, his hopes. He's learning to be vulnerable. I'm learning to listen without fixing. And Oliver is 7 now. He still runs to me when I visit, still shows me his drawings, still asks me to build him things in my workshop. But he also has space to love his parents, to have his own life, to not be the emotional glue holding broken adults together. That's the biggest lesson I learned. Our children and grandchildren aren't responsible for healing our wounds. They can't fill the void left by a lost spouse. They can't be our entire world. We have to build our own lives, find our own purpose, create our own meaning. After Catherine died, I stopped living. I just existed. I poured all my need for connection into Theo and Oliver because I didn't know how else to survive the loneliness. But that wasn't fair to them, and it wasn't healthy for me. Now I volunteer at the community center. I teach woodworking classes to teenagers. I'm part of a grief support group. I have friends my own age, other widowers and widows who understand the specific ache of losing your person. I'm building a life that doesn't depend entirely on my family for validation. And paradoxically, that's made my relationship with my family better. When I see them now, it's because we genuinely want to spend time together. Not because I'm desperately grasping at connection, not because they feel obligated. It's real, it's chosen, it's love. If you're listening to this and you're experiencing something similar, if you feel forgotten by your adult children, if you're struggling with loneliness after loss, if you're caught in conflict with family, I want you to hear this. You're not pathetic. You're not burdensome. You're not invisible. You're human. You're hurting. And you deserve dignity. But you also have to take responsibility for your part in the dynamic. You have to be willing to look at your own behavior honestly. You have to be willing to change. Healing isn't one-sided. It requires everyone involved to show up, to be vulnerable, to do the work. And sometimes, despite your best efforts, reconciliation isn't possible. Sometimes the relationship is too broken. Sometimes people choose cruelty over connection. If that's your reality, I'm sorry. I know how much it hurts. But your worth isn't determined by whether your family chooses to see it. Your value isn't contingent on their validation. You are enough, just as you are. And there are people who will love you, who will value you, who will see you, if you're brave enough to keep looking for connection. Don't let pain make you bitter. Don't let betrayal make you cruel. Don't let loneliness make you desperate. Instead, let it make you wiser, stronger, more compassionate, because the world needs people who've survived hard things and chosen to remain kind. If something feels wrong in your family relationships, trust your instincts, but also be willing to examine your own behavior. Are you respecting boundaries? Are you making demands disguised as needs? Are you using guilt as a weapon? Be honest with yourself, and then be courageous enough to change. You might save a relationship. You might save yourself. And that's not the only secret I discovered that year. I discovered that I'm stronger than I thought, that I can survive losing everything and still choose grace, that I can be hurt deeply and still offer forgiveness. I discovered that my worth isn't measured by whether my family appreciates my sacrifices. It's inherent, unchangeable, mine. And I discovered that it's never too late to rebuild, to start over, to create meaning from pain. Catherine would be proud, I think, not just of how I fought for my family, but of how I fought for myself. So here I am, Vincent Holloway, 64 years old now, still standing. My life looks different than I imagined it would. I'm not surrounded by adoring family every day. I'm not the patriarch of some perfect Norman Rockwell clan, but I'm not alone either. I have my work at the community center. I have my support groups. I have friends who understand what it means to lose and rebuild. I have a relationship with my son that's honest, even if it's complicated. I have a grandson who knows his grandfather loves him. I have a daughter-in-law who, while we'll never be close, at least respects me now. And I have my story, this story, the one I'm sharing with you. Because if even one person hears this and feels less alone, it was worth telling. If even one person hears this and decides to fight for their family or fight for themselves, it was worth the pain. If even one person hears this and realizes they deserve dignity, respect, and love, regardless of their age or circumstance, then everything I went through had meaning. We live in a world that often forgets its elders, that sees us as burdens instead of resources, that pushes us to the margins and expects us to disappear quietly. But we're still here. We still matter. We still have stories to tell and wisdom to share and love to give. Don't let anyone make you feel small. Don't let anyone erase you. Stand up, speak up, fight for your place in the world, but do it with grace. Do it with wisdom. Do it with the knowledge that you can be strong and kind at the same time. You can set boundaries and still offer love. You can hold people accountable and still forgive them. You can protect yourself and still remain open to connection. It's not easy. God knows it's not easy, but it's possible, and you're worth the effort. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Tell me your story. Tell me if you've experienced something similar. Tell me if you're struggling. Because here's what I've learned. We heal in community. We survive through connection. We find meaning by sharing our pain and our hope with others who understand. You're not alone. I'm not alone. We're all in this messy, beautiful, painful, wonderful thing called life together. And together we're stronger than anything that tries to break us. So wherever you are right now, whether it's 3 in the morning and you can't sleep because family pain is eating at you, or noon and you're on your lunch break trying to escape into someone else's story for a while, or evening and you're sitting in the quiet wondering if tomorrow will be better, I see you. I acknowledge your pain. I honor your struggle. I believe in your strength. And I'm here, just another human who survived the unsurvivable, telling you it gets better, not perfect, not easy, but better. Hold on. Keep fighting. Keep loving. Keep growing. You matter more than you know. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for proving that even in our darkest moments, we're never truly alone. This is Vincent Holloway signing off, but not disappearing, never disappearing again.